So you guys see my shirt since Biden came out talking about wanting to get rid of all semi-automatics?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up. I want to show everybody. There is something that's really insidious about what's happening with Biden right now. And I just want to show everyone. This is the search that anyone can do right now. It's on Google. You can just go and Google search it, Biden gun control. Real simple, right? So there's no trick to this. And what do you get as the top stories? Well, here's the thing. You've got Joe Biden renews assault weapons ban. Okay, it's an assault weapon. He's going after assault weapons again. Everyone's terrified of assault weapons. They're the problem, right? No. He went and was talking about semi-automatic guns are sick. And this is the trick that they're using. They're trying to clean this up because when you say semi-automatic firearms, like Joe Biden said, that means that, Jan, they want you to be defenseless. They don't want you to protect yourself. That means every woman in America is going to be defenseless. Everyone who doesn't have a revolver. So that means every police officer. That means the FBI and the security, the Secret Service that are protecting Joe Biden. He just called them all sick. All the women out there, all the men who are protecting their families, everybody who has a semi-automatic, that means a handgun, a 9mm, like he said on CNN when he was talking with Don Lemon at the town hall in 2021. It means 95% of everyone in America is sick because they are exercising the Second Amendment. And because that's insulting to 165 million gun owners in America, they have decided that they need to change the language really quick to convince people, no, he's talking about assault weapons. He doesn't mean what you... Well, this is why you see the language difference that's coming from The Guardian, that's coming from CBS News, that's coming out of Yahoo. They're changing the language so they can say, no, we're not talking about taking away your right to defend yourself. We're not taking away your Second Amendment right. We're just going to take away the assault weapons. No, that's a lie. He means your firearm. He means protecting yourself. He means don't you dare obey or think or question this and the consequences of it. He means that if you dare to exercise your God-given right as codified by the Second Amendment, you are sick because you're not obeying his commands, the party and the ideology of progressives. How dare you do that? You should be punished. Does anyone disagree with my assessment of that? That anyone can go onto Google right now and you will see the difference in the headlines and in the article for yourself.
Yeah, but he's
Biden came out against certain semi-automatic weapons anyway. Okay, look what he's came out with on 9mm. Okay, 9mm.
Blow your lung out.
That's going back
9mm handgun. Blow your lung out.
Right, and that was going back to when he was in the town hall with CNN and Don Lemon in 2021, which I was referencing. So this isn't new. But the problem is, even then, he said 9mm, so people aren't thinking about all the other firearms that he's actually talking about. This time, he made it plain English, obvious for everyone. If you think of what is a semi-automatic firearms, they're trying to change the message. This is how they manipulate the public. They're changing the language before people can think it through and go, here's the consequence. This is what he means and how it will affect your life.
And New York is pushing to ban semi-automatic weapons as well. Right,
which means everything. It means protecting yourself, whether it's a handgun, whether it's a rifle, whether it's the quote-unquote assault weapon, which is a brand new term since 1986, created in California, of course, semi-automatic rifles. Because no one's running around with a bunch of machine guns. He doesn't mean machine guns because, by the way, that's still legal. You can still buy a tank. You can still get an F-16, which people do own. You can still have a flamethrower, a rocket launcher. You can still have a machine gun, which thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans actually still have.
Mhm.
No, this is about protecting yourself on an everyday basis. Women and families, men, you can't defend yourself if you happen to, especially if you happen to be urban, you happen to be a minority, if you happen to be a woman, if you happen to be poor. God forbid you dare to protect yourself like the Second Amendment says you can. He wants to deny it. And that's why he said very, very directly, semi-automatic firearm gun, instead of saying assault weapon. He gave away the truth. They're trying to cover it up before your eyes. And that's
Well, and the other thing people have to look at is the fact that it's not just it's not going to be police and military and CIA and DOJ and FBI and all the 3-letter alphabets that are going to have this ban put in effect. It's about
IRS.
control. It's about control, taking weapons away from law-abiding American freedom citizens.
Yeah, I agree. But do you guys do you see how subtle, and this is mostly for the audience, do you see how subtle the difference? It seems subtle. It seems like, oh, it's no big deal. No, because when he says semi-automatic, he means everything. When he says assault weapon, they're trying to make it sound like a small group. No, he means every American citizen, 165 million people. He's coming after you. And just like I've said on my program, I said on here, when is this all happening? After the election, when you can no longer do a damn thing about the people who are in power so that they can maintain the manipulation. Now you're finding out the truth, whether it's the economy, the recession, the food crisis. Now it's about your Second Amendment rights. You no longer can control what they're going to do, so they don't have to care anymore. They can be honest with you.
But do you think they have enough backing? I mean, they've only got, what, like 3 weeks to get this through? Because they got Christmas and New Year's break coming up.
It's called lame duck session.
Yeah.
So in the next 3 weeks, the Democrats still have the majority in the House, the Senate, and the White House. So they have the power, as they have had all year, to be able to pass anything they want. They could have taken abortion, which I disagree with them on. They could have codified Roe v. Wade at any moment all year long. They're going to do it in this 3-week period.
Yeah,
Why?
but I don't think they're going to have enough Democrat backers for this, though, because there's enough Democrats who own firearms.
But there is, now that they just went out and they found one story that they're using to push this. They dropped the UVA story because it was a black shooter, so that didn't make it work. They dropped the Idaho story because that's a stabbing, doesn't fit their scenario. Now they have what happened in Virginia and Walmart. It fits the scenario. It imposes the fear that they want people to have. Why did Biden not say anything about North Carolina? Why did he say nothing about Idaho? Because it wouldn't allow him to say this, which means now that you're scared, let's go out and we'll go and ban all these firearms because people are scared properly now. It's a setup. This is a setup that the media has been waiting to have happen so they could do that. And they knew it was going to happen because every year during the holidays, people become, the depressed people, some of them become very suicidal or they become very violent. It's an uptick. It's every year. It's been every year since the history of mankind that we've had these holidays. We always see this uptick. It's absolutely normal in terms of the trend. And they're taking advantage of it to use the power they have before they run out of the timeline. These are my conclusions based on the facts. You guys can tell me if you think I'm wrong.
Well, no, and I agree, but it also is, people keep wanting to talk about mass shooting this, mass shooting that, mass shooting this and that, but the overall violent crime has gone down to what? How many percent in the last 20 years, Mike?
Violent crime overall?
Yeah.
About 15% if we're talking national level.
Mm-hmm.
And even that, and that's starting to confuse things because what's violent crime, what falls under it, it's very vague. So it
You,
depends on how you want to
you
qualify.
said exactly what I wanted us to talk about. Violent crime is vague, just like gun violence crimes or gun crimes are vague. A toddler in the store gets his mom's gun out of her purse and shoots her, they consider it a gun crime. Somebody accidentally negligent discharges and shoots at somebody, whatever they can, it's a gun crime. Take suicides and they label it under gun crimes. And the problem is,
in MS-13 versus the Crips, that's gun crime.
Yeah, gang versus gang is a gun crime. And so they have this big fucking blanket term for it, and it covers so much when in reality the actual crime rate's gone down. The problem now is social media is out there and can absolutely blow it out of proportion and make it seem like this has never happened before in history, and it's all because of the Republican Party.
Well, they sensationalize this.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's going on is everybody has 24/7 access to this. Okay? And it pops up as lead headlines on Google. It pops up lead headlines on Yahoo. You go to CNN, lead headlines. You go to MSNBC, lead headline. Even on Fox, lead headline. So no matter what media source you're using, these are the stories that are leading. Okay, they're not happening any more often than what they used to happen. It's just now with the ubiquitous access that we have to all these media sources, and the fact that everybody around us carries a cell phone. Okay, and on them. Okay, they have a computer with them 24/7. And they're constantly thumbing through that. Okay, and they're getting alerts on this stuff. So it's looking like it's an uptick in stuff, but really it's not.
No, it's a difference.
Okay, and that's the whole
And
thing.
I think one of the biggest things too
It's
is the fact that
sensationalized that's making it look like it's a worse problem than what it actually is.
Yeah.
well, and I think one of the biggest things too is the fact that it's always the gun that kills people. It's never the knife. It's never the vehicle. It's never. It's always the gun's problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because those other things, they don't exist. Remember, when 2017, a young black woman in Las Vegas ran over 7 people, including an 8-year-old child, when in New York, in Manhattan, there was a guy screaming Allah Akbar in a pickup truck, ran into a school bus, ran over 11 people. When we have the Waukesha driver in Wisconsin who ran over 70 people. No, that's not. That has nothing to do with any of those problems that are the same root cause. No, they're all separate things. That has nothing to do with it. So they're not going to ban cars. They're not going to ban knives. But the gun, the gun means if it's held by a white person who may be Christian or otherwise, but especially if they're white, if they can allude to, even though they may not be, if they can allude to them being Republican in any way, shape, and form, even if it's proven false immediately afterwards, they're going to run with that story so that they can say, see, they're the bad guys. We warned you. They're evil. Give us your guns. Give us your rights. You can trust us. By the way, we're cutting the police. We're going to hire a bunch of social workers. We're going to open up the prisons and release 1/3 or more of those convicted criminals of those violent crimes. We're not going to investigate the illegal aliens that are coming into our nation with drugs and gangs. That's all okay because those are all separate things. Trust us because we're the government. We were elected. We have to be smart because you voted for us. And the media agrees with us. And anyone who disagrees, well, they're a domestic terrorist, they're evil, they're MAGA, they're bad guys. This is the setup they are using against people. It is these word games. I've been doing this 17 years. I'm very familiar with the word games that are used in this. It is on purpose to get to a specific outcome.
Well, look at what they're doing with the Colorado shooter. It came out that he hate crime and all the other crap they said. And then it came out that he said he was non-binary and you know, a couple other things. And the leftists automatically came out and said, well, you can't believe him because he says he's non-binary.
Well, because it's part of their ideology.
Exactly.
3 or 4 of the last couple of publicized shootings, notice keyword publicized, because they're not talking about shootings in Chicago, Baltimore. They're not talking about shootings in LA, New York. They're not talking about just some of the publicized stories. The last 3 or 4 have all been connected to, in terms of ideology and online writing, either black supremacy or progressive ideology. And they're all supposed to be right wing. And the moment that it comes out they're not right wing, the story gets dropped.
Well, Paul Pelosi is a perfect example. They tried to frame him as a right winger.
Yeah.
That story dropped pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh, there's proof that he has nothing to do with the right wing, and everything he's been doing has been nothing but left wing, far left ideology. Oh, drop that story. That's not important. We don't need to talk about that anymore. We don't need to know what's going on with that investigation. Next story. We found another story that's even more fearful, fear-inducing, and terrifying, and we can blame it on Republicans and guns.
Well, and notice how quick
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Notice how quick the FTX story dropped, and now we have more information coming out about Epstein's flight logs.
That we should have had a year ago.
It's like, don't focus on this. Focus on this, because we don't want you to focus on this.
Yes, but notice they don't want you to, they're saying the flight logs. They don't say the black book that Ghislaine Maxwell already had, that the FBI has in their possession, that they could be going through investigating right now, because those people maybe have been complicit with the crimes we know have been already through the courts. No, we don't want to investigate that. Talk about the flight logs that actually say nothing about what crime may have been involved, where the black book does. Oh, yeah. It's a distraction. It's a means of turn away. Don't think about it.
Well, they're good. They're good at that. Every time you turn around, this is an existential threat. Oh, stop paying attention to this, because now this is an existential threat.
Yeah, it's all about, these are ways to manipulate people's emotions. So then when they suggest, oh, and we have the solution, we're going to do exactly the same thing we've been doing for 5 decades, just a little bit bigger. We're going to do the exact, and I always have to remind people, gun control is not new. We've been doing the same thing since, at least in some variation, since the National Firearms Act of 1934. We've just changed where it applies and expanded it more and more. But we've been doing the same exact thing since 1934. It doesn't work. All gun control being offered in the last half century is, you don't get to have a firearm. That's it. They're going to take away law-abiding citizens' firearms. It has nothing to do with criminals. It has no prevention on criminals, the crazed, the deranged. Doesn't stop them. Doesn't even try to. It only attacks law-abiding citizens. For 5 decades, it has never worked, and we know it doesn't work because there is absolutely no evidence. If there was any shred of evidence, any study, any survey, anything that showed that this even had a 0.5% effect, any of the gun laws, and all of them combined, if they even had 0.5% of effectiveness, they would be trotting that out on every single news media at every election saying, see, we were right, it works. You have to do this. They have never provided that evidence, that link, that source, ever, because they don't have it, because it never works. But you're not supposed to ask the question. You're not supposed to think about it. All you're supposed to do is obey as they take away your rights and freedoms to no benefit to the public. That's my position on that. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do. in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.